Board of Elections today approved some new rules for North Carolina voters, including big changes for military and overseas voters. They'll now be required to submit photo ID when they vote. WRAL Capitol Bureau Chief is live at the State Board of Elections. Why is this changing, Laura?
You know, today's changes were not made by state lawmakers, actually. They were actually made by state elections officials. And that's after a ruling earlier this year in the case of former Republican state Supreme Court candidate Jefferson Griffin. In the lawsuit over that Supreme Court race, Jefferson Griffin challenged the ballots of overseas and military voters. Griffin said they could have been fraudulent because the state did not require photo ID, although he did not offer any evidence of any actual fraud. The state court of appeals agreed, saying elections workers had been misinterpreting the intent of the state's photo ID law. The court also ruled that adult children of military or overseas voters who have never physically resided in North Carolina themselves should not be allowed to vote in state and local elections. State Elections Director Sam Hayes said those voters will still be allowed to vote in federal races because federal law requires them to be allowed to, but their votes on other races will no longer be counted.
They are a U.S. citizen and they have to vote somewhere. And I agree, from a policy perspective, certainly president, that's easy. Going down from there, where do you put these people?
Ann Webb is an attorney with Common Cause North Carolina. She says it's unusual for states to add extra requirements for military and overseas voters because they're already covered by federal voting laws that are uniform for all voters from all states. Webb said decisions like this should be made by state lawmakers, not by state elections officials based on a single court ruling.
I think there's a real question here of why isn't the legislature having a discussion about what barriers there are for our military voters and their families to vote? What other challenges might they have to submitting voter ID?
Now, that conversation could happen next week. State lawmakers are scheduled to return to Raleigh, and one of the items they could take up while they're here is a debate over a new election law. So that new rule may or may not be permanent. Laura Leslie, WRAL News, live in Raleigh.